Hi, Chronic community. It's Jamie here. This week, Meg sat down with one of her very best friends from high school, Skye Montante, who's an amazing dancer and choreographer who spent a year abroad showing the world their amazing dancing skills. Truly incredible. And the two of them sat down to discuss their shared experience in the dance community, as well as having an eating disorder. It may sound serious, but this conversation from beginning to end is so fun and interesting. I literally grinned like an idiot watching and listening the whole time. I'm sure you will too. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode with Meg and Skye, and don't worry, Meg and I will be reunited for our regular Chronic shenanigans next week, next Wednesday. Bye.
Here we are.
Because you are...
What am I?
You're Skye Montante. Tell me what I am.
Tell me what
Label
I am.
me.
What am I exactly?
No. I think you should tell me and then I support whatever you choose. Literally our generation. Like, I want to do what's right.
I want to be politically correct.
I want to be
at all
PC.
times.
Help me. And I'm like, you can just live your life and let people tell you and then
Yes.
do your best.
And you will be wrong.
You will be wrong many
will be
times.
wrong.
Oh, have I been wrong? And I'm okay with it. Live, laugh, fight. This will be like the weirdest cold open. So Skye is staying with their in-laws.
Yeah.
Yes. Post Europe. And we're on the edge of this green space where my dad grew up here. And he told me, before I drove down, he goes, oh my God, you're going to this cool place called Falola. And I was like, okay. And he said, it was some guy's phrase and it was fight, live, love.
And we're really questioning what exactly that person's referring to.
So violent. This person had a violent reactionary nature,
But was quite loving also.
but also love each other. And hashtag live. I'm like,
And we lived.
Was this 1800s live, laugh, love?
I wish I lived.
Fight, live, love.
I wish we lived in the 1800s.
Sometimes.
Damn. I kind of feel like it right now.
You would hate the petticoats.
I don't want to talk about the petticoats.
Oh my gosh, was that triggering? I will never discuss petticoats.
Mainly because I
Ooh.
actually like that was my if I could choose like all the political things and like being gay was fine and all the things and like nothing was real, right? But like you could just go back in time for like a fun trip.
Girls' weekend. 1844.
Exactly.
Hop in, bitches.
I would that is where I would be going and be just driven in full male garb.
Full male garb. 100%.
Sure.
Like the cool 3-piece suit.
Oh, absolutely. With a little pocket watch just hanging out like Thomas Shelby.
Don't
Do
get
you,
me started. Don't.
Do you want to talk about him? Because he's the love
Don't.
of my life. And people think he looks weird in Oppenheimer,
No.
but I think he looks fucking great.
Aging beautifully.
Cillian Murphy is my dream man.
Like every time I see this person on screen, I'm like, squeak.
No, I can't. I'm like, do I want to be him? Yes.
Yes.
Do I want to be
Do I want to be with
him?
you or with?
Also
yes. Yes, and.
Yes, and I'm obsessed with you. That's all. End of story.
I
told my friends that was my celebrity crush. And to which my other friend's celebrity crush, who was also a queero, Channing Tatum. To which I said, and I almost vomited over the phone, and they were so upset. And then I told them, and they were equally upset.
You were straight shaming them.
And they were like, you would love that because he's just an emo hot lesbian.
He is a lesbian. Oh my gosh. Because he does look like lesbians I'm attracted to.
Absolutely.
What up, Cillian? Sponsor us.
Shout out to Cillian Murphy.
Our favorite lesbian.
It used to be Justin Bieber. No more.
Sorry, Justin.
He's not a lesbian anymore. Confirmed.
Confirmed kills. Just a straight white man. Bye, Justin.
I love your music. Choreograph to it all the time.
But I will bop to your jams all day. Well, since the people have no idea what's going on, 20 minutes later. Hello, everyone.
Oh my
Welcome
God.
back to Chronic the Podcast and our Chronic community. And who is next to me but the one, the only, Skye Montante! just got lightheaded. I was so excited. I felt all the blood
rush to your head.
rush.
I'm sweating, but I wanted this to make an appearance, so I think I'm going to take it off.
So
now.
good.
Yeah.
You can take it off. Okay. It's such a good shirt, and I'm happy it had its moment, and now it's just going to be a peekaboo moment behind you.
Sure, it's an accent.
Like I said, so few people can pull off.
So many people.
So many, you know what I always say? Everyone can pull off yellow except Skye.
Including you.
So you're just like everyone else. Congrats.
Gold star.
This is going to be so off the rails. We're never
going to get through the podcast.
Wow.
Let's get serious, okay?
Let's talk about eating disorders.
That's all I talk
Ooh,
about.
just shove it right in. All right. We're gonna warm everyone up.
Yes.
Hi Skye.
Hey, Meg.
It's weird to hear you call me Meg.
Because I call you Buzz.
Buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to be like, formal.
Hello, Meg,
Meg.
my friend.
Hello, Margaret.
That I've known for many years.
Usually what I really call you is Buzza.
Busha. Sounds like Bush.
That's the real
Bush.
way I say it.
I say Montante. My friend, my dear soulmate and lifelong love.
Yes.
How did we meet?
We met. I actually don't know if
I have no idea.
I actually forgot. No, I actually was thinking about this last night, and I was not remembering if we met at ArtQuest at Santa Rosa High or if we met at Santa Rosa Dance Center first and then Santa Rosa High. I think it was Dance Center first, but I don't know. Like I'm not certain which one it was.
Which is, it's because it's almost 20 years ago, which is bonkers.
Well, because I think I met you when I was 15, which makes me think that it was Dance Center first because I didn't go to Santa Rosa High until junior year of high school.
It was junior year?
Yes.
Oh, maybe because, well, I thought in my memory, our first connection were dance team auditions or I guess dance company auditions in the gym. I remember that vividly. I remember meeting you and Alana.
Yeah. 'Cause that's when I first met Alana too.
Yeah, but so for the viewers, or I'm sorry, for the ear viewers out there listening in, Skye and I grew up in Northern California. Is Petaluma in Sonoma County?
Yeah, it's like North Bay.
Me just ignorant, like you're not part of us. Okay, Petaluma, Santa Rosa. We both transferred to the arts program because we wanted to be artists.
Yes.
And so, yeah, you officially came in junior year. Mm-hmm. And it was, history was written.
It was magical.
Eyes locked, bodies popped.
We were never the same.
Things were never the same.
Never the same.
I have this vivid memory of you. Skye had a stick shift and it was reckless. This little, the fact that there weren't serious accidents, the way you drove that thing was impressive.
There were a couple.
I'm so, well, there it is.
But they weren't my fault.
Of course. No.
But I'm not just saying.
Uh-huh.
Okay, call my ex-boyfriend Dylan Barry. He can vouch that it wasn't my fault.
XOXLDB. Oh my gosh, our super duper hyphy friend. Well, I say super duper hyphy because my most vivid memory is being in your stick shift vehicle, shamobbing to a super hyphy concert.
Sure.
And being in
Probably
the back.
listening to Tracks a Million,
It was Tracks a Million, I think Keek to Sneak,
sure.
E40.
Yep.
And we were in the back just like,
it's kind of crazy that we were
hypey.
like dancing to those songs as I look back on it. That's pretty inappropriate to dance to. I got purple. I got
grapes.
Shout
But
out to Lily.
Kid Delicious, Mom Nutritious, because the parents were just like, I don't know what this means.
We love grapes.
We love
Candy?
grapes. Everyone loves grapes.
Sure. I do. I certainly do.
It depends. Sometimes they are so sweet. I have like 2 and I'm like, that was enough.
Sure. I understand.
So anyway, we met dancing in high school and we both were deeply in love with hip hop dance and wearing baggy basketball shorts and baggy everything.
No makeup.
And we're
Barely washed our hair.
didn't wash many things. Good thing I was on swim team. She got a little dunky dunk once in a while.
Chlorine cleans everything.
Right? Shiny. Yeah, I don't know what else to give the people about that little moment.
Pretty good context.
Yeah, that's all the platform we need. But then basically, I went off to college in SoCal. You stayed in NorCal for college. And then I
did go to SoCal. I did go to Santa Barbara City College for 2 years.
Oh, shit. That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
I
visited
transferred
you.
back to NorCal.
That's right. And when you were at the city college, this was before you were out. And I remember you saying that it was a lot of L word in the dark.
Yes. I was like, where is this going? Oh, yes. L word in my room but not by myself, because I had 2 roommates at the time living in some garage and just like being by myself watching the L word. And
yes,
as for many of us, just Shane being the coming out story for the young queer folks.
What
Still
a bridge.
relevant, honestly. And I remember a lot of my friends saying, you only are into her because she looks like a boy. And it's funny thinking about that now, because Shane, that does not look like a boy. Like, to me, when I was younger, I think I just accepted that.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of thought, I don't think that she looks like a boy. But now it's like, she 100%, like, she's not even a butch.
Not really. No.
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 There's no butch representation. Anyways.
What would you call, because I still don't understand the lingo fully, what would you say?
I don't know. I don't think it's I think
Doesn't
that
even matter.
it's like when we talk about dance styles, and I think of, let's just call it Skye's class or Meg's class or just a choreography class. That's how I feel about like putting queer labels on things. It's sort of like, why are you I understand labels feel good, and some labels for me do feel good, but I think more general labels, like I feel a bit more masked today, like I feel a bit more femme today, like that is enough of a label as opposed to like futch. Although
Foot sounds like sounds like an itchy foot.
Yes, like
you need
Gunkel,
cream.
for example.
Yuck.
It's not good.
Gunkel's not good.
No, but like long-haired butch, I actually do love that one, just because you could do
An LHB.
I just love the LHB, like just the saying it is fun.
LHB life.
They're all from Sacramento.
All gay terms are from Sacramento.
All LHBs are from Sacramento. If you see an LHB out and you walk up to them and you say, "Where are you from?"
Sacktown.
Sacramento.
I still love this idea that all queer terminology came out of California's capital, Sacramento, California. Oh my. So did you hear about these stems? Which I just heard. No,
So that's how I feel.
I love that you say that, because my trans friend in LA says the same thing. Just like, why are we just be yourself? And that's very refreshing for me too, to be like, it doesn't have to be this daily, like, what am I? It's just,
I think it inhibits people from coming out, because they feel like they have to fit into a certain category, and so it inhibits people from thinking that they can come out even if they don't have their identity totally figured out yet. And it's kind of like, we don't need the limitations. It's hard enough to come out.
that's how I feel right now. It's like I haven't been intimate like with any gender in 2 years, and that's where I'm like, but as I'm coming back to Ragamuffin High School Meg, of feeling, oh man, I feel much more comfortable in a more mask tomboy. Mm-hmm. Like I feel so much more grounded in myself, but because I haven't been like with anyone, and you're going, well, what? Mm-hmm. But it's not about who you're sleeping with.
No,
it's just, again, just be me.
Yeah. It's
so
just Meg.
It's just Meg. So anyway, that long little Oregon Trail detour. But so you're watching L Word alone?
Watching L Word alone. Yep. Checking out women, but quietly, and
just a whisper.
And like definitely had a moment at camp. Of course, it happened at camp. It's interesting though, because my coming out story was really different for the person that it happened with, and I didn't know it was so different until like very recently, actually, that it was like really different for her. Which was, it was a shocking moment, and again, not like totally my story to tell completely, because it's her story too, but sure. I had a very deep connection with somebody at camp when I was 19. I didn't come out till I was 20, but I met her when I was 19. That's right. And I thought I was straight, but I just liked her a lot, and then that's like obviously a classic queer tale as old as time, as
tale as old as queer.
But that was my coming out moment, where there was this girl and we were super, super connected. I never really felt anything like that before, and she sort of opened up the door, hypothetically, to me discovering other things, that it wasn't just her, and that it was more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember you invited me up to San Francisco where you were living, and we had lunch, and you said, I'm gay, and I was like, Yeah, that all makes sense.
You know, that surprisingly enough, just to shock you more, that was literally everybody's response except for one of my friends.
Really?
Yes.
And they were like,
Alana Joy Eckhart was like, huh, you sure?
I'm dead. The person that was most bonded to your hip.
I know.
Forever.
But I don't think she sees life in that.
Interesting.
It was like more than that, and I really think it didn't matter necessarily. And so it was, that. But she was the one person that she wasn't shocked, but she wasn't like, oh. Like literally every other person was sort of like, I could have told you that. And it's like, well, I'm actually having it's like a big moment for me, and you're kind of ruining it for me by saying that it's not
I wanted a party.
I wanted like a big deal. And it's like, no, it wasn't a big deal.
I think too, there's also like, cause that was before, I mean, that was now 13 years ago. And at that time, I think it was still like, we didn't grow up with it being a normal, everyone has language and everyone's talking about it. And it was, I remember when we were in high school, it was just like still very much a closed case file.
There was always like one gay person in the high school and you kind of knew, but never really a lesbian. And that's really true. And also I was like pretty lucky because even if I didn't have terminology, my mom was queer and she had a lot of queer friends.
I did not know that.
And so I was like surrounded by queer people. A lot of my mom's best friends were lesbians. And so I was like surrounded by lesbians. My mom was with a woman for like 8 years, and that woman,
Karen.
Yeah, I couldn't even know that.
How am I not know? I'm having such a moment right now.
Yeah, and she didn't identify as quear because she like married a straight man, and so for her and her journey, she thought it was a phase until way later in life. As you know, my mom and I were super close, and she would come visit me in New York, and we would go to gay bars, and she finally like opened up to friends. She came out to me when I came out to her. When I was 20 and I told her I was gay, she was like, well, I guess I should tell you something now too. And I was like, this is a steal of a thunder moment for sure.
Oh my gosh, talk about
I know, it was crazy.
Honestly,
she was like, well, I guess I should tell you. Well, you know. And Rosa was like really a big staple in my life. Rosa's nieces were the flower girls at my parents' wedding. Like they became best friends, and yeah, so I was like really surrounded by queer people. I can remember looking at a photo album and seeing another couple of my mom's really good friends, Day and Antoinette, and one of them was in a white suit, one of them was in a dress, and I remember I was super young, like under 10, and asked who was the boy and who was the girl, and my mom just said, they're both girls. And that was it. Like there wasn't a big like, let's sit down and talk about what gay. It just was, so it just normalized. And my dad too was a musician, drummer in the theater world and stuff, so that was always constant. And so it just was like, it never was a big, I didn't realize until honestly way later in life, and even now still realizing how lucky I was that there was a normalization about it that I know a lot of my friends didn't have, that I didn't even realize that I had, because just by her saying they're two women and just not having to go in through a whole speech made me think that there was nothing wrong with that. So I'm very grateful, and she ended up being able to claim her queerness way more and not calling it a phase anymore. And she used to call herself the original queer when she was at Ginger's. And
the OQ?
Oh, yeah, she was. Yes, incredible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, pretty special.
I had no.
I can't believe I didn't tell you. That's wild.
Maybe because it was just like so not like an announcement that needed to happen.
It happened over a really long period of time, and then obviously I knew since I was younger, but I wasn't sharing it. But then as I got older and realized that I'm friends with a lot of my exes, and then seeing my mom be like best friends with Rose, you know, it's like it was a huge role model situation, but I didn't realize it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're not consciously taking it
because it was normal. It was
just super normal. That was my life. That was who was in my life.
Damn.
Yeah. So it just never seemed like a big deal. Really cool. But then in my so it's interesting because Nat didn't have any queer elders. Oh, and also my aunt is queer, my mom's sister.
Okay.
So I just had a lot of queer elders, but I didn't have queer peers, whereas my partner had no queer elders, but had a lot of queer peers. So
queer peers.
Queer peers. So it was kind of an interesting thing to talk to my partner about, because they're both relevant and like super important in different ways, but really, really different.
That's so wild. I think, well, you know, we grew up in Northern California, which is like, and where all of the queers of San Francisco went to retire. So it was just, that's what my mom always said. She'd be like, this is where the queers retired, and Sebastopol. And so, Same thing. I mean, my mom's best friend / my godmother, just like 6'2", loud lesbian woman, would come over and get drunk on G&Ts with my mom constantly, would wrestle me. And I adored this person. And she was like a staple in my, she's still in our lives, obviously. But yeah, and all my mom's friends, there's a big queer community. So we had a kind of rare pocket of growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But well, thank you for sharing about your mom. And like, I'm just like, I don't know. I am tripping.
Yeah.
In the best way. But because I don't want us to get derailed, Skye is here to talk about their sexuality. No, it's just,
They won't shut up about their sexuality.
they don't want to label themselves, but they won't shut the fuck up about not labeling themselves. But so part of what our conversation and our shared experience, and because I want to clarify, being gay is not a chronic illness.
Here on Chronic, today we're talking about
gay. No, just gay. The title of this episode is just gay, chronic illness. Ugh. I want to clarify that that's not what we're talking about. But it's important groundwork of why we've had these conversations of you and I both have a history of eating disorder and how it's different for every person.
Yeah.
But how you and I, obviously, as being dancers, and Skye is still an amazing choreographer. Well, you were just in Europe for a year dancing your heart out, and it was the most amazing thing to see. But dancing, choreographing your whole life.
Yep.
And we had a conversation a few years ago about me being curious of, okay, well, for me with my eating disorder, I know that it had many layers, but one of the layers was, I think, feeling like I wanted to fit into the male gaze or what I was seeing in media of what a woman should be.
Yeah.
And the contrast of you being more mask presenting now, even though the eating disorder started before you came out, but how me wrapping my mind around, well, why did you have an eating disorder if you cover up all the time and you're not trying to show off your body?
Yep.
And that was something I really was wanted to dive into.
I don't think I know this moment. There was one moment that I realized that I had an eating disorder, and it wasn't until I was 22 years old.
I remember you saying that too. You're like, I think I have,
Yeah. And I was in a dance medicine class, and one of my favorite classes in the world, actually, and we were having a lesson on eating disorders. It's just a room full of dancers learning about anatomy in correspondence to the body. And like as a dancer, just learn about this. And my teacher drew a scale on the chalkboard, and on one end, the loudest chalk ever, it might have been a marker, so pretty quiet. One end she wrote anorexia, and the other end she wrote bulimia. And she looked at the class and she said,
because it's that simple.
She said, these are not the only two ways to have an eating disorder.
There it is.
And even right now, I have chills because I feel like I got smacked in the gut because I had just been denying since I was 12 that I had an eating disorder, if I'm honest. And it just rocked me because I really was a person that thought, because I wasn't anorexic,
right? I
wasn't bulimic,
right?
So I was fine in my mind. I was fine. I didn't have to do anything. I was fine. But when she said that, I can't even, I don't know, words are hard about it. It just shook me really hard. And I think in that moment, I was like, I think I have an eating disorder. And it was so crazy because I had massive body dysmorphia and still do, but it's under control.
Yeah.
And I was doing an insane amount of bargaining and withholding.
Wow. It's what's tripping me out and why my mouth has been this whole time that you've been saying this is because I'm now remembering, one, our conversation when we talked about this, and then two, which was years ago, was that's exactly how I figured it out. The exact same thing. I remember us geeking about the shared experience because same thing. It was senior year of college. We had to take kinesiology as part of the dance major. And she made us take a questionnaire. It was this 50 question test to see, are you on the spectrum? And I remember taking the test and it was 100 out of 100. You have a full blown eating disorder. And I was like, what?
How did we not know? it's crazy.
It's
to me.
crazy.
And for me, what's wild too is, honestly, I was having this moment when I was in Barcelona. I sound like a prick when I say that, but when I
was in
Barcelona. They actually don't talk like that there, so everyone needs to
shut the fuck up.
really needs to like get it together. That's Madrid, okay?
Oh.
So I was in Barcelona. I was taking a dance class, and it was a really busy day before, and so I hadn't eaten very much, and I went to class, and I felt like I was gonna pass out. It was the hardest class. Not because of the choreography, even though the choreography was very challenging, but my body just felt crazy, and I left thinking, I used to do this all the time, every day. I would be taking, and I only took one dance class that day, and when I was younger, I was taking so many dance classes a day, and I was eating the amount that I was eating. It makes me sad for my younger self that I was doing that to myself, and that I didn't even realize it, and that I just thought it was fine. And it really wasn't fine. But for me, again, because I was eating a little bit, then I wasn't anorexic, and I never was going to throw up, because I hate throwing up. So like, I'm not that, but I was, and because I never went to a program.
Right.
There were so many things that made me think in my head that I was fine, and that I could just deal with it, and that it wasn't a big deal. And then that was just the beginning of realizing it, and it didn't get better after that. But I just knew, and then I was way more in my head about it. I was thinking about it all the time. I was like, it was, and I mean, the worst of it didn't happen, honestly, until I was in Argentina studying abroad, and then when I was in New York were the two times that it was worse, and that was years after I like diagnosed myself.
And in those environments when things can be like, everything's different, things can be out of control, and those are the times for sure when like any addictive behavior starts to just be like, because it's how we're coping.
And at that point, I had come out, and I was queer when I realized that I had an eating disorder. I wasn't in my full authentic moment, I was out, we always talk about this, but even as kids we were dressing super androgynously, and I felt the most comfortable in my body when I was in a dance class, and I always thought that was just because of dance.
We're like,
and sure, it was in part because of dance, but a huge part of it was because I could dress the way that I wanted. I could dress like quote unquote a boy, or just dressed in a way that made me feel comfortable, and that's why I felt so good. It was because how I was presenting, not just the fact that I was doing something that I love. And it took me years to figure that one out, which seems so obvious when you think about it. But I was dressing up for society in one part of my life, and then just dressing up for me for
your dresses with your flower
back
in
to
your
the
hair.
1800s
Back to
for
my
society.
Bold queen.
That's what I was doing. And then I cut my hair 5 years ago. Maybe it was less than that.
I know now. I like the time as a warp. It was before COVID.
It was before COVID.
So it's been at least 5.
Yeah, I think it was 5 years ago. And then that was like the end of that, and that felt really good.
Yeah,
and
the final like.
But then I was already dressing super mask even when I had longer hair at that. Before the haircut, I was already dressing like mask. I would occasionally wear a crop top, but they were kind of really going out. Crop top.
I think it's so interesting, these parallels that as we're talking about how when you feel like you have to fit a definition and it keeps you stuck, because we had such a weirdly parallel, and it sucks that we weren't able to talk to each other about it. I mean, I wouldn't have even known to talk about it because I didn't know there was a problem.
Yeah.
I knew I was struggling, but I didn't know what it meant. But the fact that like same exact thing, because we had been around people in high school that got severely anorexic, like needing to go to the hospital. And so you see that and you're like, that's an eating disorder. Or you hear about girls throwing up everything they eat and you're like, that's an eating disorder. And so to be on the spectrum of it it's like this weird denial. There's no way. Or if I don't
100%.
look sick.
Yeah.
And that was also this weird, stupid internalized judgment of like, well, if I don't look a certain way or it's not bad enough, then like it's not legitimate, and whatever. It was such a weird.
And if you don't feel sick,
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about it now, I did feel sick because I was fucking hungry all the time. But I was so used to it that you get to a point where it's just numbing and it's normal, and it doesn't really matter if you're hungry because you can just ignore it and write it off as just a regular day.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. I'm starving.
It's wild.
It's wild. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I remember after I did that test, and then I was like, at that point, I knew that if I was really being controlled by my food and eating. And I just was also throughout college very agoraphobic, and I would like get stuck in my hotel room, the hotel I was living in through college.
The Hilton.
Me alone in the Hilton. Happy Loyola Marymount. I remember being in my dorm room, like needing to be away from things and really knowing that I was struggling with all kinds of, they said when I finally went to treatment, they said EDNOS.
Yes, I remember you
eating
talking
disorder,
about this.
not otherwise specified.
Yeah.
And like orthorexic, where you're like worried about the quality of food and it being healthy and all that. But yeah, I remember I finally was like, I think I'm going to ask for help. And there was on campus like free counseling. You got 2 sessions with your tuition.
Generous.
And it was this old farty white dude. And I remember I went in, and I remember it took everything in me. I was shaking to say, like, I think I have a problem with food and depression. And I just like, I need help. And I remember him going, oh, that's just something women deal with. And it was I didn't know I was being gaslit. And I was just like, okay, I must just be like fucked up. Or I internalized it.
Horrible
It
response.
was a horrible response, but I really internalized it of just like, well, I guess he's right. This is just what it is to be a female.
And you're like young enough that you can just be believing the people in power that are telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
Sucks.
And then when I finally did ask for help from my mom, and I remember, and then I went into the treatment program, you have an intake interview, and the woman sitting across from me, she was like queer and really cool and tatted and just like no BS. And she went bang, 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 bang with questions. And she looks at me and she goes, Meg, you have an eating disorder, and I'm validating that for you, and we're going to get you help. And it was just like,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I felt with my teacher, even though she didn't directly look at me and say that. It was like, Skye, you have an eating disorder.
Okay.
In my mind, that's what she said to me.
In my heart.
And it helped.
Yeah.
It helped to name it. It helped to like give it life. Like I needed it to be. I needed it to
Let it live.
I needed her to live. My eating disorder needed to live so I could kill her.
I can see her, I can murder her.
So yeah.
But I think what I've heard from, we had a few gay men in my treatment program, and I've heard sometimes in the queer community that the eating disorder is correlated with the being closeted or like internalized homophobia. And then when they were able to claim their identity, be who they are in the world, the eating disorder went away. But you didn't have that experience.
No, and also I think because it did have something to do with gender.
Okay.
And like how I was like presenting.
Okay.
Because not every queer person is like the stereotypical lesbian, whatever. And
Right.
that's not. Yeah, it's not necessarily the same thing. For me, it was more about. I think it was less about. I'm sure queerness is relevant. I'm not saying it's not.
Sure.
And it was for me in some ways. And I think that how I was presenting myself and how I felt in clothes and just like about my body in general in different situations was more relevant.
Interesting.
And so for me, I didn't come out as non-binary until literally last year. It's been like 1 year. And
yeah, you just told me like on the phone call like a few months ago.
Yeah. So I started using they them pronouns last June, like right before I left New York.
Okay.
And I literally just started wearing a binder like 3 or 4 months ago. So it's all very it's
an evolution.
And it's great. It feels awesome. But even in these big like moments that I'm having, it's like I was feeling that when I was in dance class with my like big Bay Area t-shirt,
Hyphy T,
triple XL. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was having, those were like gender revolutions, but I didn't know that that's what they were.
Yeah.
And so when, again, like what I'm thinking of is a rehearsal with the wonderful Alan Frias, who I was dancing for in San Francisco when I was in my early 20s. Super flamboyant gay man, just like way more feminine than I am. Like exceptional.
I can picture his movement.
He
crystal
is
clear.
so incredible. He was such a good teacher. He helped me grow so much. And we were prepping for this show in San Francisco, and we were talking about costumes, and he walked over to me, and I was in like a massive t-shirt and some sweatpants, and he was like, "What the fuck do you have underneath there?"
You're like, what?
And I was like, don't touch me. But he like lifted up my shirt and he was like, okay, you're wearing a bra, or like you're wearing a sports bra. And I my mouth dropped and I was like, please don't make me do that. And he actually didn't end up making me do that, which is nice.
Yeah.
But to see someone look at me and see something that I like wasn't seeing. First of all, wasn't seeing in terms of my eating disorder, because I didn't think that I was the person that should be wearing a sports bra, even though I know that I'm small.
Petite.
But in your fucked up brain, that's not what you're seeing and feeling.
Yeah.
But it was less about that and more about like what I'm going to feel more comfortable in.
Yeah.
Is not something super femme.
Yeah.
But interestingly, like in dance, if you're female presenting at all and you're in a hip hop thing, you're going to be put in some probably like tiny little outfit or something more femme and cute and tight and
it's very gender
sexy,
binary.
It's super gender binary.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, it was like I understood he had a vision, and so I went with it. And but just to see him pull my shirt and be like, "That's what you're hiding under there," and it's like I didn't feel like I was hiding.
Why does it have to be hiding?
That I felt more like. And people didn't understand that this is what made me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was double-sided, because part of it was because I think of gender expression and gender identity, which I didn't know at the time. But the other part of it was like, I'm sick.
Yeah.
I'm sick in the head. And I do not want to show my body off in that way.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
I like used to stare at myself in the mirror and just be like, disgusted with myself.
Yeah.
I used to hate going grocery shopping. I would wait until everything in my whole entire fridge and cupboards were completely barren, and then I would wait about 2 or 3 days until I finally was like, okay, you have to go to the grocery store again.
I've noticed that has those weird tendrils that stay with us, because you and I both have said that we stand pretty solidly now and where we are, that we don't feel controlled by those things, but the whispers can remain.
Yes.
And it's those weird little things that I don't think about. But yeah, I to this day will like let the fridge go empty and then even stretch a few days, and I feel kind of like it scratches a weird itch.
Some kind of power play.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking power play. And then I'm like, Margaret, go to the store. This is garbage. Like,
Yeah. It's terrible.
This. Yeah.
So, yeah, it takes a long time to like connect dots that you didn't actually know were dots. I didn't know they were dots.
I didn't know there were dots.
I thought they were something else.
I didn't see dots.
I didn't see dots.
It's really wild. And when you say that, even now, and this is fun that we're talking about it, because I'm literally making connections as we're talking about it, because it's been so long. It's not something that I need to talk about anymore, really. Yep. But the fact that everything kind of in our lives is connected.
Yep.
And again, we're not saying gender and eating disorder like are directly related, but you saying someone pulling your shirt up, what are you hiding under there? And when we were in high school in our hip hop group, and we had this wild, fun time getting to dance with the Jabberwockies before they were the Jabberwockies. And we were like little Jabberwockies, and we got to wear these baggy, cool costumes. Like, remember we had tall tees?
Yes.
Oh my God, tall tees, baggy ass pants. And like, we even wore long sleeve shirts under the tall tees.
Yes.
I mean, it was
full body
everything.
coverage.
And then it said like tribe on the butt.
Yeah. And you just never felt cooler.
I felt so good.
So good.
And I just remember same thing, like going to college for dance and then eventually going to New York for dance, where it was very much about the binary of female, male, and you would always be split into those two. And I am seeing now, again, it's changed so much, this new generation. Like they say feminine energy up or like male energy up, and that's what how they divide now. But still, I remember auditioning in New York, and they'd be like, take off that baggy ass shirt. I want to see you in your sports bra. And it was this confusion of like, I feel the eating disorder brain is like, no.
I feel terrible. Don't look at me.
I feel terrible. And then my light would shut off, because here I am, like, now all I can think about is that I'm in a sports bra in front of this judging panel or in this classroom or on this stage, and I feel terrible, and I would go home and like cry afterward. But just now I'm starting to also get to a point where, and I did like all the heels because I really was like, I'll do whatever it takes to be a commercial dancer. And after heels classes and things like that, I would like go home and cry because I just felt like I was forcing myself into this hyper feminine thing that was so far from tribe Jabberwocky ragamuffin life.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't I be that anymore? Why won't the industry let me be that?
Yeah. or be it on my own terms.
Yeah.
Like when I choreograph, sometimes I say if there's a dance that's a little more femme, it's like my alter ego that comes out, and that's it.
Do they have a name?
They don't. They don't have a name.
Have a
but
name.
It's just an alter ego, and she is fabulous. She really is. I love her. She's so much fun. My students love her.
I love when you pull her out.
But that only honestly feels good when I do it. Like if I went to go take like a Miles Keeney class or something.
Don't tell me to do it.
I don't want to do it, Miles. I want you to do it, Miles. I don't want to do it. But I want to do it if I feel good and it's like in this moment or vibe or song's inspiring me or
right, because you're
whatever.
following the inspiration.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's just all intertwined. But
Yeah.
you don't realize it's I mean, at least I didn't realize that it was all intertwined.
Sure.
Until, honestly, until really recently that I'm still putting pieces together, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Things are still either things come back or
Yeah.
I'm making sense of something and
Yeah.
it's really validating, and now a lot of things make sense. It's like anytime you come out in any way, and coming out and saying I have an eating disorder is another form of coming out. And then you do the backtrack thing of, okay, how long have I been this way? Where is it coming from?
Right. Where's it
What's
coming
triggering
from?
for me? It's a whole process. And
How is this serving me? That was another
Right.
thing, is like, this is a tool that you've been using that serves you in some way. Doesn't mean it's a healthy serve,
sure,
but
not a serve,
not a serve, but like a serve. Service.
service. Ring, ring, ring.
But I think even just to this day, in the last maybe year, I'm just now going, oh my gosh, I always thought, well, because like you said, you realized you had an eating disorder, but then it took years to kind of integrate or heal or move forward. And sure, I went to treatment in 2013, but then I moved to New York, and it was like still very much the third arm that I carried around and the shadow that followed me. And it got better and easier, but I think I spent all those dance years thinking, and all those times that I felt disgusting having to be ultra femme or show my body, I just was like, this is the eating disorder versus I don't feel good in this expression.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Like, and then when I remember like a moment, and I don't know if you'll share, and you had a moment of things kind of starting to shift, but I felt like my healing really started when I said, I'm done with this industry. I'm done trying to be a commercial dancer. I remember it was so weird, but everyone would like fight to be the assistant in like the big hip hop classes. And that was kind of when like you had made it.
Yeah.
Not like dancing for Beyonce. I mean, that's one of them, but it was like
Not really. It's only being an assistant in just an open class.
an open hip hop class.
That's the real victory.
Psychotic, but that was the culture. And I remember it was this like big choreographer, and I had been, in her community for a while. I remember I finally got the text, Meg, can you lead warm up? I'm late. And I was like, yes, I've made it. And so I'm there. The class is, stacked. We're at Broadway Dance Center, and I'm leading the warm up. And I remember feeling so empty. And I remember just feeling like, this is what everyone's fighting over. It just like, I don't know why.
You were fighting for it too. It's like you
Killing
get there.
myself for it.
Yeah.
And I just remember going, I'm not happy. Like you and I, we always talk about that. We were so happy in high school, in our hip hop community.
Yeah.
It was about community. It was about play. It was about communication. It was just like, that was the culture of it. And then you get into the commercial part of it, and it's just fight, slay the person next to you. It strips
Fight,
you
laugh,
of the
love.
joy. Fight, laugh, New York dance. But really, it was I had to come to Jesus of, I'm so unhappy.
Yeah.
And in a moment, I was like, I'm going full into house. I'm going full house dance. I'm done. And I got
House is perfect because you just PJs,
and that was what it was.
Just PJs.
Just PJs.
That's it.
So I put all my baggy clothes back on. I went into Sekou's class. I became his like little shadow for 2 years. And I remember I just felt the eating disorder like fading away because I was dressing that way. I felt good.
Yeah.
I was dancing the way that felt good.
Yep.
And all the
Not forcing yourself to do something.
all the BS was gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have had or are having similar moments where you're like, oh, I see where it starts to fade.
Yeah, I think honestly it was when I went to therapy, because I had gone to therapy one time with my mom. No, it's a total crock of shit. Shout out to my therapist.
Shout out to my BFF therapist.
Love you, girl. The only therapy experience I had was as a child with my mom, because my mom and I really didn't get along when I was a kiddo.
That's shocking.
I know.
You were bonded at the hip.
I know. But we went to therapy one time when I was quite young, and I was like full tantrum, if you can imagine it. Full tantrum. I was in a really big chair. My arms were crossed, and I was refusing to say anything. I just like didn't say a single thing the whole entire time. My mom and this therapist were talking about me like I was not there, and I was fuming.
Healthy.
It was horrifying. Okay.
Listen.
Looking into the camera now, it was horrifying. And I left, and I was like bawling my eyes out. I was like, that's the worst thing you could ever have done to me.
Trauma.
Just horrible. And so I was like, I think therapy is a crock of shit, actually, from like childhood until adulthood.
That's rough because it's such a good tool, but then you're
know,
like,
but then my mom was like very pro therapy, and so for a really long time when I was an adult, she was like always encouraging me and my brother to go to therapy. And then I went through like kind of a shitty breakup when I was like 27 or something. I don't know if that's right, but somewhere.
The 20s are a blur.
Like right before I cut my hair, so I guess almost 5 or 6 years ago. What was that? I'm so bad at math, it's embarrassing.
2018.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Somewhere, whatever. I don't know.
Relevant.
Somewhere around there. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'm going through a hard breakup. I guess that's a good enough time to get a therapist. So I look on Psychology Today, blah, blah, blah. Find a therapist that takes my shitty Medicaid insurance because that's my life.
Hashtag dancer.
Dancer.
Medicaid.
But it did actually have really good thing. Like, I didn't have to pay for therapy, actually. It was like kind of amazing. But this is not an endorsement for the shitty healthcare we are offered, okay? Just want to make that clear.
Not celebrating Medicaid.
I'm not celebrating it, but a little bit.
We take our wins.
So I found this therapist, and I didn't really do a lot of research. I like had a couple intakes with different people, and she just seemed like the better fit. So I picked her. And in our first session, she started telling me about her specialties, and I swear on my life I did not know that this was her specialty, but she said that she specialized in eating disorders. And I was like, okay, well, I'm really here for my breakup, but sure, let's bring it around to the eating. So, no, I was actually happy about it, and I was like, okay, so...
Therapists are so funny that way. You're like, I'm here because my broken heart. They're like, you want to talk about food, though?
Yeah.
You're like, what?
And I didn't stay with her like super long. This is my first therapist. I have a different therapist now, but because it became too much about, it was like mostly about eating, and
doesn't always help to constantly be going through the war stories.
No, but I did need that in the moment, and because I didn't go to treatment or any type of like facility to like go and just deal with it, I had never really dealt with it, just like in my mind. And it was a really
reliable.
And it was a horrible problem. It was a horrible issue, and it really did affect that relationship that I had gotten out of. And
interesting.
It was like a big part of it. And
did you know the dots at the time? Could you see those dots, or was it?
Yes, I could, and I was like, fuck you, it's not a big deal, and don't force food down my throat, you know, like don't do that, and don't make it about my eating disorder. Like don't, and like my eating disorder was affecting my partner, which hell yeah, granted, yes. And I was like, no, you don't get to make this about you. It's about me, and if I don't want to eat, I'm not going to eat. But like we were living, it's tough. Like looking back again, I realized that is a really nasty situation to be in, and I didn't have control over it at that time. Yeah. So in therapy, this is my first therapist. It did help because it did kind of feel like a weird, like super intense treatment because that's all we were talking about, and everything in some way related back to my eating, which, and some of it was relevant and some of it wasn't, but I did need someone to be like, we need to really focus on this and get to the heart of what's going on.
And you can't see yourself. So someone's saying, look, oh, interesting. That seems to be a pattern. Oh, then why do you think that happens? Like, I didn't realize why a like binge would happen. And even though the physical, all of it would be the same. And then the therapist going, so this thing happened that stressed you out, and you're like, I never would have. It seems so obvious now.
It does. And for me, it was funny because she shone light on things like I would eat a can of tuna for the whole day, as I was like, and for me, that felt like a lot.
Wow.
And when I saw her, it was seeing her reaction when she asked me, what did you eat today? And I would say something that was like so little. And then she asked like what I did that day. And her reaction was genuine concern and genuine do you know how little you ate? And
Yeah.
then very much like literally telling me the calorie amount.
Yeah.
And comparing it to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that felt really like, for me, that felt like a lot because I feel full afterwards. For her. So that was helpful. And then kind of conquering my fear of the grocery store. But now I love a grocery store.
We get lost in the grocery store.
We just bop around, buy whatever we want. It's great.
She's rich.
Just fucking let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go to the store.
Do you know what I want to do? Let's go to the
Let's go
store.
to the market. So those were two things that actually were super helpful. And it turns out that she wasn't really good at anything else but eating disorders, so I had to say goodbye. Like once my mom got diagnosed,
Very well.
once my mom got diagnosed with a deadly illness, she became completely
I feel like
incompetent.
there's other things to talk about.
She was like, "So what about your eating?" And I was
So
like,
your mom's dying. Well, but lunch.
But my mom's gonna be dead really soon. So can we talk about that? And she was like, "Whoa, that's really intense." I shit you not. Literally said, "That's intense." And I was like,
Did you skip that chapter in school?
I'm like, I'm healed. Can we?
Better.
I'm healed, and I'm gonna find a new therapist.
Yikes.
But she did really help me with the eating, and that was the moment where that was when I started.
And there
to
are
get
seasons
better.
of therapists. 100%.
Absolutely.
Like I didn't know about specialties too. I mean, obviously when you're in treatment, they all have that specialty, but then moving on, it's being like, oh, maybe having someone that understands the female experience or the queer experience or whatever it is.
It's helpful.
Yeah. I didn't know that was helpful until later on.
Definitely.
Like, oh, it helps.
Yeah, it was definitely a season, and it was really helpful, and it helped me face a lot of things. And then,
and I love the store.
and now I love grocery shopping.
So shout out to that season.
Shout out to my therapist, my first one.
I hope she's listening now and knows that she did a great job.
She's definitely listening. Yeah.
Own your specialty, honey. We're not here to judge.
No. Stay in your lane, though, also.
But also, it's a good lane, but stay in it. That's amazing. And like we've said, when we had our brief little check-in yesterday about what do we want to share, what does feel relevant that you would want to share that maybe would be helpful to other people. And we talked about like, wow, we just don't get into it anymore because again, it's not the monster all-consuming thing.
Yeah.
But that it weirdly still has maybe a little one or two hooks.
Absolutely.
And you, oh my God, when we last FaceTimed when you were in Italy, and we were like FaceTiming and you were like making like a pasta baguette situation. That's what they
If
eat
anyone
there, right?
is French or Italian listening right now, I'm
So
really
offended.
sorry. I'm so sorry. We know they're different. We know they're different.
Is there like a difference between pasta and baguettes? And your first eating disorder therapist is like, I'm gonna push her off a bridge.
They're both starch.
Is butter a carb?
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, relevant to why we were having this conversation, but you told me that you were running and I fell out of my chair.
Sure.
Because you've danced your face off our entire lives, but I was always the dancer who had a major cross-train regimen of weightlifting and like, I was way more into it.
Me, I hated cross-training.
I could never fathom how you weren't cross-training. I'm like, how are you not injured all the time? Never were.
Gift.
They're really gifted. Sorry, everyone. We thought we'd have tips for you, but they're just naturally
No
gifted.
cavities, no injuries, no problem.
Fucking flex, dude.
No problem.
I literally seeing Skye. Skye's like, oh, I do need a teeth cleaning. I've never had any cavities. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go fuck myself. Cavity flex. Oh my gosh. But so when you told me that you have been running and cross training in Europe, I said, who are you and what have they done to you?
I have no idea.
The Europeans.
You can buy my partner, who's not European.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Yeah, I never realized that it was really helpful until I was in a class full of 20-somethings, and I'm 33, and that doesn't sound like a big gap, but in the dance world, I'm literally 60.
Literally realizing that you're not 20 anymore is startling.
20-year-olds look at you if you're over 30 like a full dinosaur, and you know what? I am. I love it.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
I was in a class with like 20s and younger.
And they're like drunk and boom cat and
they're
living
just
off a cracker.
boom catting all the time, just fucking whipping that hair, thongs up around their waisties.
Did you do that?
Oh, hardcore. Makes me incredibly uncomfortable.
That makes my booty hole itch.
It makes my body itch.
That's too much.
I broke out in hives the first time I saw
Snap.
it. Don't do that.
Well, never will.
You will get arrested.
I have graduated to boxer briefs. I will not be wearing a thong at my ribcage.
What was I saying about it?
Seeing 20-year-olds smoke you,
Yeah.
endurance wise.
Oh, yes. They weren't, but that was the thing. They weren't smoking me. So we were doing this super intense. This is the fun part. Yeah.
yes.
Let's see that face. We were doing this like really intense. I fell in love with this guy in Barcelona and took his class religiously, and it was amazing. But it was full the fuck out, like full out, yes, every time. And I was dancing next to. I'm pretty sure the sweet angel is 19, and
fresh.
like this guy would be like, okay, we're doing it 4 times, full out. Are you ready? And everyone was like, whew, no. And then we would do it, and I wasn't ready either. But by the end of it, I was like breathing heavy, but I was fine. And these 20-somethings were like, like so crazy. And I looked around, and I was like, so this is what I've been missing all these
my
years.
God.
It was awesome. So I feel really good about that. I do feel like it's really helped. I don't know that I love running when I'm doing it all the time.
Right.
But it does feel like a push and like a mental push, which is really similar to dance. And it makes me feel really strong. It makes me feel really, really good afterwards. The only downside of running is that I've never done quote unquote like workouts like that.
Right.
Like running, like HIIT
Right.
classes, like whatever, you know,
No, I
insert
don't
your
picture
workout
you.
thing here, whatever. And I've done them off and off.
Skylar in a step
occasions.
class.
Right.
I would live.
honestly, that'd be a great.
I would live for that.
I'll do it and I'll YouTube it. That'll be my first YouTube video.
First and last YouTube, Skye in a step class. Before I die, that's my dying wish.
Yes. But the thing with running is that I actually started thinking when I ate, and I never had these thoughts before. I want to be clear, but now when I eat something like a really big meal or some like a sweet or something, and I run the next day, I find myself thinking, oh, I'm working off that thing that I ate.
Wow.
And that was not a part of my eating disorder. I never, and this was like, not that I was lucky, I guess, but I felt lucky in that my eating, it's funny to call yourself lucky when you had a shitty eating disorder, but I know that people,
hashtag blast.
I did know people that were like, if I eat something, I have to calculate how many calories to burn that off. And for me, that felt like so much mental.
That was my world.
So that was not my world.
Yeah.
I had a different horrible world, but I didn't have that. And I did feel grateful. It's like, what's the lesser of two evils?
Sure.
But I never had those thoughts. It wasn't about burning calories for me. That was not my story. And so weirdly, that is coming up a little bit, and then I have to just shut the thought down like while I'm running of like, that is not why you're running.
Yeah.
But in your mind it's like, oh, that feels good, or
Scratches
my partner
an
is a
itch.
little smaller than me, we share most clothes, some pants don't fit, but then I just decided to try on a different pair of pants one time that I really liked that I could never wear, and then they fit me. And it's funny that would be a traumatic thing or like a trigger in some way.
Right. Like
But it
accomplishing
was-
the fucked up goal is
And I didn't.
Also triggering?
I wasn't trying to lose weight or get. And I don't even know if it was losing weight. It's just like getting in better shape, and I am in the best shape of my life, I think, because I was like dancing and I'm running, and that's why I'm fitting into these pants that weren't that tight to begin with, but tight enough that I couldn't wear them, and now I can. And it made me feel like, oh God, now I have to like
maintain this. It's the weirdest. You can't win. And that's why it's like, yeah, you're unhappy no matter where you are on the spectrum.
Yep.
Oh, I accomplished it. Now you got to keep it. It's
And
like,
now if I don't run, I'm like, am I not? When I feel the pull to run, I want to make sure it's because I feel
Yes.
good and it's making me strong, and not
Yeah.
because I want to fit into this particular pair of pants.
sure. But I think that's where like the celebration and the victory is of recovery.
Yes.
Recovery doesn't mean it goes away forever from my brain. Recovery means, just like you said in that moment, you went, that doesn't serve me.
Yes.
I'm not engaging.
And I can banish the thought away.
banish. To the forest.
Expecto Patronum.
That's fucking exactly what it is, though. You are literally putting a Patronus on that stupid
And
thought.
I can do, and that's how I know that I'm in recovery,
Yes.
and that's how I know that I'm well,
don't
because
engage.
because I don't. And if I have anxiety, I will stop eating, but then it goes away, and then I feed myself again. You know, it's like
Yes.
there are the things and the thoughts, but I'm in a place where
Yeah.
I can say no, and it actually
Just say
it
no.
actually works.
What?
Turns out.
No, it's real. I mean, where your focus goes, energy flows, and our focus is our reality. And so, yeah, I'm the same way where I'll start to want to go down a road and I go, doesn't serve you. And then going to the next phase of it, going, why is this coming up?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And it actually, the little red flags become little helpful flags of, oh, I don't feel good right now. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely.
And to be fair, if I was a person that is just in the prime of their eating disorder, I would listen to us and be like, fuck you guys, I'm never gonna get there.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But our story is not everybody's story.
No.
And also, I never thought that I would be in a place where I wouldn't be thinking about it either. So there is something to be said for accepting where you are and then not thinking I'm never going to get to a different place or it's never going to get better. And just like you were saying in one of the other episodes that I just listened to of the 2-year sort of time frame of long COVID and the it ending and closing, and there's no time limit for your eating disorder or any other sort of like mental battle that you're dealing with. And also there can be a closing of the gap, and you have to figure out what works for you, whether that's like leaving the toxic dance industry that you were in, or that little part of the dance industry that wasn't serving you. For me, it was going to therapy and actually talking about what was going on, because if you're not talking about it, you're not really acknowledging it, you're not really looking at it in the face, and then you're never going to be able to banish it. Banished.
Because it's a symptom.
Yeah.
And that's what we realize. It's like, oh, it's not this thing. Doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean you're failing. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It's a symptom of something else that's going on, which again, now obvious, but at the time, not obvious to me at all. And I'm so glad you're saying this as we're kind of wrapping up, because that was exactly what when we chatted yesterday about. I never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would be free from it. I felt like a prisoner and I was on its schedule and it was running my life. I couldn't imagine a world without having that going on. And I think it's about having patience and compassion. I haven't shared in detail about the eating disorder, but just had mentioned in other episodes, I had this experience, and people reaching out to me that are our age saying, I just developed one in the last year when I, got out of a relationship with. It's like, it doesn't know an age. It doesn't know a gender, but and we're not going to get it right away. And I think that's what maybe kept me sick in my recovery, made it stretch out, was because I wanted it to all be perfect and done. And I couldn't celebrate that.
You can't wrap it up in a little bow.
And maybe it was only 4 weeks between behaviors and then behaviors would come and I'd feel like, oh, I've failed, I'm back. But it was like, no, it's a little bit less every time.
And I remember you and I having conversations when we were both in it. And I remember us talking about how we really didn't think we were ever going to be out of it. And we were like embracing that idea. So how cool is it now to be here and think, because we had a lot of conversations on the phone. I remember specifically when you were in treatment too. And we were both talking. That was when I was just kind of discovering that I was also having an eating disorder. And I remember us feeling like, okay, well, this is our life from now on, and we just have to deal with it. And yes, it is your life, and yes, you have to deal with it, and no, it's not always going to look this bad, or it doesn't have to always look this bad.
Right. And I think there's so much shame. I was dripping in shame around it, and I was in the closet about it forever and couldn't talk. Now I can just say, blah, eating disorder. But to me, those words felt like so heavy and toxic in my mouth, and I hated the label of it. And then I think I realized along my recovery road was like, I don't need to wear a label. I don't need it. Just, it's so interesting, these like parallels of identity. And it's like, this label doesn't serve me anymore. No. And so I let it go. It was an experience, and it's a fascinating evolution.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Wow. Are there any other like nuggets or things you don't have to leave anyone with anything profound, but
stay strong.
Fight, love, live.
Stay strong and carry on.
Go to Barcelona.
I mean, my nugget is like, find out maybe what things you need to avoid and some type of triggers. That was helpful for me. Like even now, if I see a scale, I run in the opposite direction.
Yes.
And just knowing that is helpful. And really sweetly, many years back. I remember telling my brother that, and he told me that he like hid the scale before I came over because people put it in their bathroom. It's a totally normal thing to do.
Sure.
But for me, but knowing that and then being able to voice like little tiny things that maybe could help in your environment and naming those, that was particularly helpful for me. Or like, I'm not going to undress in front of a mirror, for example. If I'm going to go in front of a mirror, let me just be fully dressed in those like moments of darkness.
Sure.
So small things that actually can go a really, really long way.
Yeah.
So those I think would be the small nuggets of what are the things that are really not making you feel good that you encounter like maybe every day. If you could eliminate at least some of those.
Yeah, like setting yourself up for success.
Very helpful.
Yeah, they used to say bookend in treatment. They'd say bookend experiences that you know are going to be stressful or things you encounter like triggers. So, okay, I know I might encounter this trigger. What do I do before and what do I do after?
Yep,
before it's like, do I need to tell Skye, like, Skye, I'm going to this thing that has always been triggering in the past, so I need to call you.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I need to go do something like watch a movie or decompress from it. So, yeah, it's like, I think for me, when I really healed was when I was able to start sharing about it, like coming out to you about it and just being able to go, okay, I have someone that I can talk to and I don't have to live in shame.
Totally. I think community for sure. I also think, although I like that we're saying coming out as an eating disorder. I actually do. I think it's super relevant. And as I would say to any queer person, like it's never too late to come out. For some people it is. I know people have circumstances, but in reality, like it's not. You can come out whenever. And I think for eating disorders too, people do hold it really close to their chest, don't feel comfortable talking about it, feel a lot of shame about it. They've lived with it for so long. It's like, it's not too late to come and say, hey, I have a problem and I really want to get help. And that's
beautiful. Actually, I got goosebumps. Yes. Not to be dramatic. I'm not trying to be really like, oh my God. No, I think that's so beautiful that you can be 60 years old. Doesn't matter that like you can ask for help at any time and you can transform whatever you're going through at any time. Yeah. It's so wild. Well,
goodbye.
And the end.
On that note,
see
you next week.
No, but I seriously thank you for sharing everything and like.
Thanks for having me.
I know I kept getting lost in your eyes.
We're not alone.
In the least homosexual way.
We are not alone.
We're in your partner's parents' house.
And in the pod.
But no, it was really special to they say go back to your younger self and like give them a hug and embrace them. And like if high school Meg and Skye could see this right now, I just think it's so freaking precious. I'm really lucky to have you and have this. And I hope that I know people will relate to this. And how can they find you? Because y'all, we didn't even get into like, it could be a whole other episode of our journey with dance and your personal expression and your voice and your style. And like, y'all, you got to go check out Skye's choreography, next level.
It's too nice.
No, it's not too nice at all. It's facts. And go check out their Instagram of what you were doing in Barcelona. Oh my God. I'm like going on and on because I'm just number one fan. But Skye has always been dope. But going to Europe, I think the freedom of being there, just watching you again, like you're saying, like it's never too late to come out. It's never too late to just grow and expand. And you went from I'm a choreographer to going to Barcelona and being like, oh my God, there was this whole other of dope ass dancer that I unlocked.
Well, for me too, I had to get out of New York. No shame. I love New York.
We love New York.
We love it. And I couldn't grow there as a dancer.
Yeah.
As a teacher, choreographer, I did.
Yeah.
Immensely. But as a dancer, I did not feel safe.
Yeah.
And I felt super safe in Barcelona.
You can bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my Instagram is...
But seriously.
My Instagram is Skyla Jo.
It is. SKYLAJO.
Correct.
Boom. And that's the only place they can find you.
And sometimes people think that Skyla is my name, which is funny, but not accurate.
No.
I do have a website too.
Wrong.
I have a website. It's skyemontante.com.
Skye Montante. And you're going to be teaching back in New York.
Yes.
But you're so if people wanted to come train with you or anything, maybe right now you don't have like a locked in city.
July. I will be in New York, and then I will be TBD.
TBD. Would you ever do online anything, classes, if people wanted to dance with you?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. If you want to dance with Skye, they will be
I'll be in Woodside.
nomadic. They'll be in Woodside. Come on to Woodside, y'all. South Bay. But thank you so much again.
Thanks,
I love you
Puss.
endlessly.
I love you too.
This was so special. And tune in next week. You can find us everywhere at, this is where I fail, and Jamie always is like, Meg, you
can find them on Apple Podcasts. You can find them on Spotify and any of your local podcasts.
such a podcast ally. Just ready.
I literally just listened to your episode, so
chronic_pod. And if it's the email, it's podchronic@gmail.com. And please write in and tell us your experience. Tell us where you're at, if you've recovered, whatever it is. I love to hear it. I'd love to share. I'll share with Skye. And yeah.
And tell Jamie I said hi.
What up, Jamie? Happy
Hey.
NYC.
NYC.
Cut.
The city of... Oh.
Oh no, you're about to just book that show. Oh no. We'll call them. Sorry.
Call me later.
Call me later. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.